Now, Warriors defeat the Sharks 44-12. And what's so shocking about this is the Sharks actually scored the first try. And I spoke about it a bit earlier on the podcast, but every time I doubt the Warriors, they prove me wrong. And, even watching the trials, I knew something was different about them. But did I think that they would turn into this side so quickly? Absolutely not. I cannot believe what a huge win this is for the club. And now they have set themselves up they genuinely could finish top 4. Genuinely top 4. Like not, you look at their run for the next month or so, their run into finals footy is very winnable games. Very winnable games. The Warriors for me are definitely, I'm trying to think. Dolphins were like the swan song, or not the swan song, but like the story of the year as to what they've done. And maybe they still are, but if you had Warriors as the story of the year, I would not fight against that very strongly. Like their incredible journey they're sitting 5th, I think, right now. Because they beat the Sharks by so much, they actually leapfrogged them because they beat them by so much. So it was almost a double-edged, double whammy against the Sharkies. But the Warriors, the scary thing is this is the first season under their systems. This is the first season. Imagine, and also they've had injuries in key positions. Like they haven't had this crazy lucky run where no one gets injured. They have injuries in key positions. Absolutely fantastic win from the Warriors. And I know it's early days, but could they win a premiership in the next 3 to 4 years? Like, it's not that crazy. It's really not. Now, a lot of things have to go right. They get RTS next year, but they might finish in the top 4 in their first year. What are they going to do in 3 years when they've got the exact roster they want and 3 more years under this system? Now, it might be SJ's last year in the next year or two, but I've got so much confidence in this system that they'll bring in someone to fill the void.
They play the Raiders this week, so that's 5th versus 4th. If they beat the Raiders, I think they will finish top 4. I think even if they lose to the Raiders, they're a very good shot to finish top 4 regardless. They've got a bye to come the week after that. Then they play 5 bottom 8 teams.
Unbelievable.
Personally, if I'm a Warriors fan, I would be disappointed based on the footy they're playing in the draw they've got if they don't finish top 4 this year.
It's amazing what they're doing.
We were down there a couple of weeks ago. Like they absolutely gave it to the Raiders a few weeks ago in Canberra.
Yeah.
Like they dominated them
on Croker's 300th.
Yeah. You talk about in the next 3 or 4 years, is it feasible that the Warriors can win a comp? Of course it is. Why not this year? I'm not saying they win the comp, but Penrith, in my eyes, is still leaps and bounds above. I think everyone would agree on that. The market reflects it. If Cleary, God forbid, you wouldn't wish it on anyone, goes down injured, that brings the playing field very level. I think after Penrith right now, 2 to 8, 2 to 9, any of those teams can win the comp. And you could make an argument for any of them after Penrith. If injuries do strike upon Penrith, we don't want it to happen, but if they do, why not this year? I'll give you another one. Prelim final, Penrith come up against anyone there and someone knocks them off. I think the Warriors can beat every other team in that top 8. I don't think it's beyond realms that they can do it this year. I'm not saying they will, but...
So what position do they have to finish to get a home final?
1 or 2 if it's in the top 4.
Well, okay,
otherwise 5 or 6.
Yeah, so if they make the top 4, if they come 3rd or 4th, they get an away final. But if they lose that, they get a home final the next week. Or if they get 5 and 6, they'll get a home final in week 1.
So basically, top 4, they're guaranteed at least 1 game at Mount Smart.
Top 6.
Top 6.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, to the first game. But top 4 you want because you get 2 shots at the cherry. So if they finish top 4, even if they play Penrith away, so it would be top... So 1 plays 3, 2 plays 4?
1 plays 4, 2 plays 3.
1 plays 4, okay. So 4th, they will most likely play Panthers. If they lose to Panthers, they go on the other side of the Panthers draw, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So then they go...
With a home final.
Exactly. Then they go home to Mount Smart against whoever.
Yeah.
Then they go to a prelim. You're 160 minutes away.
It's not beyond the realms.
It really isn't. You're right. Especially that top 4 finish.
Yeah.
Can I give you another angle? I've only played the Panthers once this year. That was Panthers full strength. I think they're missing Isaac Tunga, and that was it. They got beaten 18-16.
18-6.
18-6, sorry. What did I say?
16.
Sorry, 18-6, sorry. Do you think, surely if anyone knows this Panther system maybe how to beat them, it's Webby.
That's such a good
Good
point.
shout.
That's a great point.
So yes, I think they're at long odds to beat the Panthers. But if there's any team that's going to get him in a sudden death game, Webby might have a plan up his sleeve to know how to beat.
He
these
would
guys.
know them obviously inside out, back to front, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Mate, it is going to be so exciting to see if they do get a home grand final. And look, I'd be shocked if they fell out of the 6. If they fall out of the 8, I'll be fucking absolutely mind blown. But if they get a home grand final, at least one, and then they could make it into a prelim, like that's where magic. You can feel. For example, this is a magical year for the Warriors. Everything just seems to be clicking, and so a guy like SJ, who right now him and Haas, it's probably between those two to win the Dally M, which is insane to think. The Warriors really like. I am so excited for them as a club, and again, it's almost been the theme of the podcast. But you ask yourself, who's playing career best form right now? Fuck, nearly the whole side.
Take your pick. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's when you know there's a good coach and a good system, when all players are playing essentially the best they can play. On top of all that, look, it's going to be hard because I think if Ivan Cleary goes back to back to back, he's the coach of the year. You can't really give it to anyone else. But it's selected before that happens. So, discounting that, Andrew Webster is the coach of the year.
Yeah.
I think when you consider, as you said, when that decision is made, I think it has to be him.
And I think the decision made is so dumb that it's before the grand final, but whatever. It has to be Webster. They're literally a win away from the top 4 with a team that most of us, if not everyone, like tell me anyone outside a diehard Warriors fan that had them in the top 8, let alone the top 4. No one.
Yeah.
That's how far this guy's taken this team. It is, mate, it's one of the great stories of rugby league.
And keep in mind, we've just watched, obviously it didn't end the way that we hoped, but we watched Reece Walsh go to the Origin Arena, dominate game 1, dominate game 2, and they lost him. Jesus. They replaced him with Chance, who the Raiders didn't have a fullback, and you were playing him in reserve grade.
Isn't that just bizarre?
Unbelievable. Crazy.
I want to get some clarity on the Chance situation because I've seen a lot of comments. Have you seen it too? Saying that he chose to leave before he was basically put into reserve grade. Look, Timmy, he was put in reserve grade before he left. He didn't leave because he was homesick and that's why he left. He was down the pecking order.
He was playing reserve grade before he left. I know
he was homesick.
Yeah, like he's got kids, 1 or 2 kids over in NZ.
But he was definitely put, and they went the savage route.
He was, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clear that up because I've seen quite a few comments of going, no, he was homesick and that's why he left. Look, there's nothing wrong with it. The Raiders are going great. It doesn't mean, but he was put in reserve grade and they chose to go down the savage route, which has changed again. But Chance was absolutely not their first choice fullback.
The thing that stands out for me this year at the Warriors, and there's Sean Johnson, there's all these guys we can talk about. I remember sitting here at the start of the year and looking at the Warriors side and going, I think they have to pick Chance at centre and Ned Corey at centre because they need to find centres that can defend. I think the Rocco Berry, Adam Pompey, granted he missed a few tackles on the weekend, but I just think that their edges look completely different now. Completely different. And that's the spot that I always just thought last year. Against good teams, the Warriors write the game plan against them because you just go at their edges. I think that's completely changed.
People get sick of me saying it, but again, like we all always, and rightly so, we should play, like the players are responsible for how they perform, but not enough credit is given to the environments and the systems that they are defending in. Pompey and Berry are the same players they were last year. Like they haven't turned into supers, like they haven't changed their physiques or whatever. All they are is in a different environment with a different coach. That's it. That's the only thing that's changed. Yet, they're a team. Guess what their completion rate was on the weekend? 92%. Big game. Sharks, they came out of the blocks absolutely firing. And this is what the performance that they put up. It is, mate, they are putting themselves in such an incredible position. And I tell you what, if you're a young player, now it has to be maybe a couple of years in a row, but all of a sudden the Warriors go from, go over to New Zealand, a bit much, they're a bit inconsistent. If Webster can continue doing what he's doing, it goes from a club that is tough to get recruitment into, do you want to be part of this young coach, this young team? Do you want to be part of the Warriors? It'd be their first premiership.
Yep.
Do you want to be a part of that? Because that's where they're landing themselves right now, in that the area of about to strike towards a premiership at least.
I'd love to see what Webby's plans were at the start of the year as far as the future. I'd love to know which players he thought maybe they aren't my guys and I'll plan to move them on. Because I just look at their squad right now and I can't find you a player, if I'm being completely honest, that I think doesn't fit into the way they're playing.
I remember last year, fixture, you talk about like how weak the edges were in the defensive systems. Sharks versus Warriors, corresponding fixture, but it was at Shark Park. Will Kennedy sent off after 16 minutes. Sharks went and beat them 29-10. And I remember the Sharks stripping the Warriors for numbers time and time again, sitting there going, I cannot make sense of how this is happening when they've got a player less on the field for 64 minutes of the game. And now we look where we are 12 months later.
Amazing stuff. It is so exciting to watch. Now, in regards to specific performances, obviously Shaun Johnson, 3 try assists. Again, almost like a similar-ish journey to DCE without he didn't have the controversy, but Shaun Johnson, for some reason, was such a polarising player, but he never did anything wrong. It was almost like he was cursed by the fact that he had this incredible talent. So if any team he was in played poorly, it was like, he's a bad guy. Yet there wouldn't be a Kiwi fan or any rugby league fan that isn't absolutely loving Shaun Johnson getting the love he deserves as a footy player.
He threw that pass to Rocco Berry, which was a sensational ball. I thought the one before that was even better. It was like a tunnel ball into a blind spot where he had to get it in front of Mitch Barnett, but he also had to get it on the outside shoulder of the second man. I'm not sure who it was. It was an unbelievable pass. When he let go of it, Chance was behind the first guy and he caught it on the outside of the second one. It was unbelievable. He's a freak, Shaun Johnson.
Absolute freak. And look, I know a few weeks ago we were saying, it's arguable that, he's in as good as, career best form. I would argue right now, Shaun Johnson is playing the best rugby league he's ever played. I think this Shaun Johnson is better than 2011 Shaun Johnson.
You are more likely to win a comp with this Shaun Johnson than 2011 Shaun Johnson.
He might win Dally M.
Shaun Johnson went to a grand final.
Yeah, he might win a Dally M this year.
Talk about like people like how polarising he was at the Sharkies, and I could never understand why, because he had his injuries, and like you can't hold injuries against a bloke. 2019 Sharkies played 18 games. He had 16 try assists. 2020 played 16 games, and he had 23 try assists.
Fucking hell.
2021 played 10 games, early obviously injuries, and had 5 try assists. So a little bit down in his third year where he only played 10 games, but try assist wise and like scored tries in that time, won games of footy, terrific.
Yeah, it's so good to see Shaun Johnson playing the way he is, and very rarely do you see a guy that has all the potential in the world turn around and go, okay, I've got all that talent, potential, but I need to work on the boring stuff. And he has made himself into almost the ultimate halfback. Still has all the flair that he needs. He still has pinpoint accuracy with his passing, but just all the boring. Like, to think that we'd be sitting here saying that he has one of the best game managing 7 ability in the comp right now. Mate, you'd be laughed out of a room if you said that 2 years ago.
And you look at the way, especially the way like he ball plays on that right edge, that like nowadays he'll be trying to get it, a guy 3 men out, and he'll do that by squaring up. Whereas 5-6 years ago, he'd do it by coming off his left foot 3 times and showing guys under, just trying to do it himself. Everything looks like it's in slow motion for him. It's the beauty of when guys get to this age and they've seen it all before. It all just becomes so easy for them. It's such a robbery on rugby league that halves only get to this point in their 30s.
I know.
Could you imagine if you could take that vision and put it in SJ? It's the same with every player ever, but if you could put that vision and that timing into younger guys, it'd be the best footballer ever. Literally.
And another underrated part of his game this year is his defence. We were on tour that first game against the Knights, and I'll be honest, we saw him miss that tackle and we go, oh shit, SJ, here we go.
Fitzgibbon straight through in 5 minutes into the game.
And we thought, oh fuck, SJ's defence is going to be terrible this year. He's not going to commit to tackles. Nah, it has been the complete opposite. I haven't watched a single game since that moment and gone, SJ didn't commit to that tackle. He's committed to everything. Everything. So good to see. So I'm stoked for SJ. And if he wins, I think it's between him and Haas right now. Obviously things can change, but it'd be one of the greatest stories in rugby league if he wins a Dally M at the Warriors.
I remember watching those trials for the Warriors, and I remember genuinely thinking, privately I thought this because I respect Shaun Johnson so much, but I thought It'll be Metcalf and Tomato Martin.
I mean, I even said it. I said, I think that Sean Johnson's under pressure to keep his jumper, and that if he has a few bad games, Tomato Martin and Metcalf might get it. But how wrong were we? And that's what separates, I wouldn't say greats in regards to, do you put him up there with the greats? Probably not. But in regards to talent, superstardom, that's what separates the superstars from just good NRL players. The superstars, when they're faced with adversity and faced with these moments where most people would crumble, they turn around and do the exact opposite. And that's what he's done. It's been so amazing to watch. Another guy to talk about, Adam Blake. What a leader he is for that side. I always thought Blake would be a front rower, that great stats, really good player. I didn't know whether he'd ever be a leader, though. I don't know if he'd ever take that responsibility on his shoulders. Boy, he has turned into one of the better front rower leaders in the competition. And if he was playing for any Sydney club, any Queensland club, he would be in the papers constantly. He would be talked about constantly. Adam Blake, it doesn't matter what forward pack he's playing, he usually wins the battle. I can't remember a time when Adam Blake lost the battle against his opposing front rowers, when he's just been completely quiet. He's that good.
Yeah. And I think if he was an Aussie, I think he'd play Origin. And I think it'd be a really good shot to be in the Kangaroos side.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine a front row Haas, Blake? I mean, obviously he would want to play for Tonga, but
I just love the way they use. I've sort of spoken time and time again about the Warriors, the forwards and interchanging of short passes between them, but they don't just see a front rower and go, all right, one off the ruck, knock them over, get you a quick play ball if you can. They see front rowers, and AFB in particular, as an attacking weapon.
Yeah.
So they'll go Tohu going to the line and play short off him with someone sweeping out the back, and a pretty standard shape, don't get me wrong, and they'll hit him and they'll go to the line. He runs a good line, and I feel like they see that Webster sees his forwards differently to other coaches, and he's getting so much more out of them.
Which will be scary when he's able to actually build the forward pack he wants, because he knows who he'll target.
Yeah.
He'll have guys in mind. He'll know how to utilise them better than other coaches.
Even AFS try on the weekend, from memory, he ran a bit wider, and SJ hit him wide, running a good overs line.
Yeah, I know. They lose him so well. Yeah.
And it's so effective.
And it's, we spoke about it earlier, but you would be surprised how many, so before the game, all week, you're the coach will come to the ball player and he'll say, all right, we've got this great big forward with incredible footwork. He's huge. Get him on the edge there, some sets, just to get us some momentum. You'll get into the game, everyone's head goes off, and it never happens. Where it's actually happening at the Warriors, where they've talked about it midweek and said, Adam, you don't need to be in the middle all the time, just taking the shit hit-ups. Let's use you as a weapon on a smaller bloke with great footwork. And he's absolutely nailing it. 65 minutes for the big fella. Unbelievable. Another guy, Mitchell Barnett, was outstanding again. He's a guy that, put it this way, if he was still the Knights, he'd be maybe playing first grade, maybe. In this system, he's been outstanding, and I think he's just getting better and better. I feel like when you watch these players, as the years gone on, players that were normally fringies have gotten just better and better because they've bought more in and realised and started to believe, oh, this actually works. This is, I should fully buy into what's happening.
Dylan Walker's the other one for me.
He's been outstanding.
The game starts when Walker comes on the field.
I know, it's outstanding. Seriously. Put it this way. The Warriors beat the Sharks 44-12. Tohu Harris only played 36 minutes.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
To be winning games comfortably, they can just go, Tohu. I don't think Tohu in his entire career has not struggled with injury at some point. Something's been going to go, nah, we'll rest you for the rest of the game, mate. All good.
Yeah, all good. We've got faith. So impressive, man. Metcalf showing his potential each week, getting better and better. Rocco Berry. Spoke about it earlier in the piece, but a try, 2 try assists, but geez, it didn't come out of nowhere because you could see this in him, but it came out of nowhere in regards to, it wasn't like he slowly built up to this game. It's almost like he woke up that morning and said, I'm going to realise my potential today. And he did exactly that. He was outstanding.
Well, he was one that Rugby Union was very, very keen on, Rocco Berry, and Peter O'Sullivan managed to fight him over to the New Zealand Warriors. So I think you'll start to see him pay more and more dividends. I thought the hooker, mate, he was very good. I think commentary probably got a little bit excited at one point there. But I thought I remember watching him when he was at Penrith and going, He's handy, but I don't know how much first grade he's going to play realistically. I think he's been really good for them over there, and I think he's more like his performance has been good, but for what you're paying him, for what you're getting out of him, perfect.
Perfect. And also, I think that SJ is drawing it out of him because
Yeah.
you can see him and SJ, like you can see SJ going, like, Wado or whatever, Egan, get to him for me. And it's making Egan look really good because he's following the lead. Whereas I feel like in, the last couple of years of the Warriors, even SJ to a degree, but like the halves have really struggled to give direction to him. Whereas now that he has a good mind, a great rugby league mind to go, I need you here, here, and here, we're starting to see him hit his potential.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, talk about how good SJ's been and how good that right edge in particular have been at the Warriors. Wade Egan deserves so much credit for just he engages his marker every single time. And every time they go right, the Warriors, they seem to have that half an extra man every time. Wade Egan from the get-go, is getting that bloke in, whack out the back, thanks for coming.
Tell you who else wasn't there in this game that I think's had a very good season. He doesn't play huge minutes or anything, but Bunty Afoa.
Yeah.
I thought they would miss him a little bit more.
Jazz Sabunga wasn't there either.
Jazz wasn't there. Marasa Niakoto's not there. So like, there's three guys that are in their starting front row forward in their starting forward pack
How does
against the Sharks. It's a huge pack.
Yeah.
They're massive.
Tamari Martin come back in?
I think at the moment he doesn't.
I don't think he doesn't.
Nah.
Yeah.
And I thought he was at millions 4 weeks ago
Yeah.
to miss out on that side.
Which is scary to think that, he might be silkier than Metcalf at his best. Obviously Metcalf got a better ball running, but Tamari Martin's Metcalf has better ball running, but ball playing for Tamari Martin is more silky.
In saying that, they ran on the weekend with Freddie Lussick on the bench.
What, you reckon 14?
Or maybe, I don't know, like they let Egan play 80 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, maybe.
maybe there is a spot for both of them because, I think we constantly look at that team list and go, Dill Walker's a bit of a versatile. He's a forward now.
Yeah, he's a forward now. He's almost just 13.
So you can carry a 14 if you want.
Mate, so impressive, the Warriors. They're just getting better and better. Guys like Josh Curran, like they've elevated their game so much that like Curran used to be their star. Now they've elevated so much that he's a really good, player that can fit anywhere in the forwards, and he's just playing his role perfectly. That's how far they've come as a club. Like, to think that Curran isn't their main guy anymore, he's just a really good, solid player, is actually a good thing because Curran is a battler. He shouldn't be your main go-to guy. So yeah, really, really good stuff from the Warriors. On to the Sharkies. Geez, they find themselves in a tough position because, it is no secret they absolutely struggle against top 8 sides. So Craig Fitzgibbon has to ask himself an incredibly tough question. Do I make changes and risk dropping out of the 8? But the negative is it doesn't work, I drop out of the 8. The positive is I challenge for a premiership. So I'm going to be really interested. Does he either back the systems and the players he currently has and says, no, I believe this is only my second year. This is only my second year as coach. I've got faith that they'll get better and better each game. Or does he go, this is not working. Changes need to be made. I do think, I said it a few weeks ago, and I do think changes need to be made on that left edge. I think that I probably have to say I'd be bringing in Trindle. I know Moylan had 2 try assists, but I just think defensively he's too much of a target. It's like Talakai's defensive reads sometimes can be, not the best. And so I think changes have to be made on that left edge. And I guess the closest to a change is probably Moylan.
Well, yeah, I've thought for a long time that Teague Wilton doesn't overly help the situation. He got injured in this game, and I would argue it got worse. So I don't know how much we can put on Teague Wilton, but yeah, I agree. I think Trindle will be a good option. Do you consider moving Talakai into the second row?
I think you have to.
And bring in, you got Tracy, Ito, you got a heap of options there.
And I just think with the Sharkies, even though Talakai in attack has been phenomenal, like you look at his stats and you go, unbelievable. Even he's a good tackler, but sometimes his reads aren't great. And I just don't know if they've got the luxury of waiting for Talakai to get more reps under his belt at centre. So maybe you work on that on the off-season again. I think you bring Talakai onto an edge. You pick the best defensive centre. You don't need any more attack. You pick whoever is the best defender. You put him in the centre. You get Trindle in there because I assume, and maybe Trindle will be worse than Moylan, but as I said, like even though Moylan, he does some really good things, he's just such a target now. Every team is just going straight for him. And so I think like you got to give Trindle an opportunity to go, okay, I might not offer as much as Moylan in attack, but maybe he's better at defence and you just shore up that edge. I'm not sure. Maybe you bring Trindle in at 14 and you... What do you reckon?
I think you've got to find a spot for Tracy somewhere. I think he's just the sort of guy they need. You got all these other blokes in this team that are so much more talented than Tracy, so we keep being told. I just love the ticker that he has and the attitude that he brings. I think that's what they need.
He's a gun. I think you'll drop Moiser. It pains me to say it because he's been so good in attack, like one of the best attacking halves in the game. But his defence, it's gotten beyond he'll attack will outweigh the defence.
Yeah.
He said it's such an easy target. They scored 4 tries straight through him on the weekend, and it's week in, week out. Something has to change. I think Braden Trindle's the man to come in. He's been killing it in New South Wales Cup. He's got enough experience there.
He's a young body, so the physicality of it isn't going to be as hard to handle.
Yeah. I think that's the play for them. It will be interesting if Wade Graham does go back to a starting edge role. We know, he's one of the better defenders in the game. Will that be enough to help Moylan out? Probably not, but it could help.
Wasn't on the weekend.
No, it wasn't.
See,
so I just think I'd be going Trindle in, Moylan out. And look, as you said before, there's 7 odd rounds to go. If Moyes can go back to New South Wales Cup, sort his defence out, it's not curtains for him in 2023 at NRL level. But he's got to go back and work on his defence and prove to Craig Fitzgibbons that he can go 3 weeks in a row and not let any try significantly improve.
Yeah, I think I would move Talagai to the edge because if you just drop Moylan and you put Trindle there, you're basically saying Moiser is a problem. And although Moiser is part of it because he needs to work on his defence, I think the problem's deeper than that. I think that whole edge needs a shake-up, and that's why I'd be moving Talakai to the edge back row and putting a defensive centre there to send a message to the rest of the team of like, we need everything is defensive minded from here on out. I'm only selecting on defence. Even Talakai, your attack is incredible, but even he's getting moved into back row because our defence is just not good enough.
It'll be interesting to see what Craig Fitzgibbon does because my one criticism would be of Fitzy that he doesn't tend to make changes. Like it's not like they woke up on Sunday and that left edge was a problem. That left edge has been a problem all year. Nothing's changed the entire year, so it'll be interesting to see. And I know a lot of Sharks fans are very disgruntled that Fitzy refuses to make changes. He's got one forced change that he has to make with Wilton being out, but I think what he does with Moylan will be the big test.
Yeah, look, I think from a fan's perspective, I understand the frustration, but there's so much more than, like, for example, by not making changes, he's sending to the rest of the team, I'm loyal. Like, I'll stick by you through the tough times. If things aren't working out, you don't have to be worried about getting dropped every single week. And, we often criticise New South Wales of bringing guys in, dropping them. And now, I know that's one extreme to the other, but I think people need to understand Fitzy's trying to send a message to the rest of the playing group that don't play stressed out, don't play conservative and worried about everything. I want you playing confident and know that as a coach, I have your back. But I think it's gotten to the point where he's shown that loyalty. All the players know he's loyal, but the changes need to be made now.
I think some guys have got too comfortable.
I will say, just back to sort of Wado, while I do think Trindle needs to come in, Wade Graham has for many years been a rock solid defensive player, one of the best in the game. Not saying necessarily has been in the last 12 to 18 months, but I think Wilton has struggled defensively there. It could be worth a week or two of trying saying, get the experience out there. Wado, he's a talker, he hits in D, he can be a bodyguard for Moylan. Just give it 2 weeks and have a look. It's not dire straits. They're sitting in 6. They're a game out of the 4. Give it 2 weeks, see if Wade can shore up that defensive edge. Because then you're only making one change, which has to happen anyway because Wilton's out. Give it a crack.
Yeah, see, I'll be going wholesale changes because this has been a problem for 2 years now. They can't beat top 8 sides.
And whilst, yes, they're 6th, they play Manly this week, then they go Panthers, South Sydney. They don't have 3 weeks to sort this out. No. If they don't get this sorted now, they will be out of the 8 before we know it. They could be out of the 8 in 2 weeks.
And also, like, if Trindle doesn't come in now, you don't want to be bringing him in 2 weeks before final start. You want to give him some time to work in that position. You want to give potentially Talakai time to work on that edge back row, or whether it's Wade Graham or whoever it is. I mean, maybe do you put Wade Graham at bloody 6 and defend him there and just think purely defence? Like Hines handles everything anyway.
Hines plays both sides of the ruck. That's actually a very good shout.
I don't think they need to because they have Trindle, and I think that'd be disrespectful to Trindle, but I see where you're coming from.
Well, you put Graham at 6, you put Trindle at 14. Just fucking... I don't know. I just think that, like, defensive... Like, if you're... the thing with the Shark is purely defence. Like, they just need to work on their defence.
What about your mate from Cooma, Williams? Could you play him on the edge out there if you were to play Wade Graham at 6?
You could. Jacko played a lot of sort of edge coming through the grades. He's just a really big boy now.
Yeah,
I think I always wanted Jack as he developed to be an edge player because he's fucking unbelievable. He runs such a good line. He's got the fleet-footedness about him, but they've just put so much weight on him. Built like a brick shit house. So I think he's probably a bit too big for an edge now.
Put it this way, I feel like Wade Graham to 6 is a very Wayne Bennett move. Like, to just go, you know what, I'm just putting a fucking defender there to hit blokes and defend that edge. Look, I think it should be considered at least. Now, maybe Wade's a bit too, heavy and old for that now. Maybe he wouldn't be good laterally. I'm not sure. But my first choice would be Trindle, Talakai at the edge. You bring in whoever is the best defensive centre, he gets put in there. Then the second choice would be just go Wade Graham at 6, Talakai at 4, and then... whoever is the best defensive centre.
I was just thinking then it's pretty radical, and I don't know how it would affect the middle, but I wouldn't hate just sitting and go, hey, Cam McInnes, go play on the edge there.
Yeah, do a Ruben Cotter.
Just sort it out.
Just
sort it out, because he will.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout. Is Finucane back?
Yeah,
soon?
if Dale's back next week, all of a sudden
he's
that
back.
Huge.
Yeah.
I don't hate that.
As I said, if I'm Fitzy, I'm just picking whoever is the best defenders and just sending a really strong message, boys. I've given you so much time to sort this out, and you haven't responded. I need to make changes.
Like, if you went Wade, Cam McInnes, and then you say to Sifa, hey,
it's your fault now.
else's fault, mate.
Yeah.
This is on you now.
Yeah. Anyway, Sharkies. I think that Fitzy's a very loyal guy, but I also think that he is brave enough to make some really tough calls if this continues.
I was just thinking too, like as far as the next 3 weeks go, Manly's the easier game. Tell me DCE isn't going to be sitting there licking his lips going, I'm coming at that left edge.
Yeah,
I've got Olakau'atu, I've got Kohler, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like Kohler's speed on Talakai could be a real concern. Anyway, we'll see how they go next week. As I've always said with the Sharkies, at the very least, right now, they're still within striking distance, but geez Louise, 3 weeks could be fucking night and day between where they are now and where they are in 3 weeks. So the ball's in their court.
No idea where they're going to be in 3 weeks.
No
It's
way.
almost like they've got the yips. They're almost like the golfer that approaches the green and knows he can't putt.
It's bizarre.
It's so strange because there's no problems with the side. They're so talented. Like
they were dominating them first 20 minutes, completely dominating them. So they can do it. It's not the physicality of it. Anyway.